Among the midst of midnight, in the lonely dark hours, when you question every shadow in every corner, we want to welcome you to a Fradio Radio podcast. Welcome, everybody. In tonight's episode, we learn about the difference between good and evil. What really separates the good from the bad? Do we become bad people when we do bad things for good reasons? Starring in tonight's episode is Camila Montero as Jane, Lisa Lettinen as the daughter, and Roderick Dryden Morrison was Jasper. Written also by Roderick Dryden Morrison. Stay tuned, everybody, for Lipgloss. The flash of lightning was blinding as it split the sky in two. I was bored, so I counted the seconds before the boom in my head. When I was a kid, I heard that you can tell how far away a storm is by counting the number of seconds between lightning and thunder. The night was dark. The moon had retreated from the rain, and the only source of light was the continuous purple flashes of light in the dark clouds. It had been raining for hours, and it did not look like it would let up anytime soon. The rain fell heavily on my windshield, and the wipers were working overtime to keep the road visible. My headlights sliced through the night like a lightsaber, giving me ample light for the dark, lonely street. What is the difference between good and evil? What is the line that separates the good from the bad? Do we become bad people when we do bad things? Do we become bad people when we do bad things for good reasons? The roads were mostly empty, save a few cars here and there, and barely any taxis. I had made it deeper into the city, and the streets were illuminated by streetlights, and the lights coming out of shop windows. As I pressed harder on the accelerator to avoid stopping at the red light, my headlights were reflected back at me when they struck something, and I zoomed past, hearing a mumble and splashing clear rainwater on it. I stepped on the brakes and reversed back to where I saw the reflection. The reflection came from a handbag covered in rhinestones. The owner of the handbag was a lady. Well, of course it was a lady. She was pretty. A very pretty blonde. Tan-skinned, long golden blonde hair that was now heavy with water and clung to her bare back. She had big green sparkling eyes on a small round face, a sensual lip that was bright with pink lip gloss, also sparkling. Her skirt stopped well above her knee, showing off her long, smooth legs. She was in heels, meaning she was probably expecting a ride from someone home. Her blouse was tight and was bare at the back, and the rain-soaked fabric had made her nipples to stand out slightly. She was definitely expecting a ride.
Good evening. Please, can you help me?
She said in a rush, as if fearing if she slowed down, I would somehow drive off. She was shivering and was finding it hard to talk. Of course, you shouldn't be under this rain. You need a ride, right?
Yes, please. Thank you.
She said and got in. I cranked up the heater when she got in, to at least subsidize the shivering.
Thank you. Sorry about the chair.
She added, laughing, showing off her pearly whites. I didn't like her then. Something about her just seemed superficial, unreal, and she seemed like a pretender. Oh, don't worry about it. Been meaning to give them a wash too, I said, laughing, showing off my own pair of yellowish pearls. So how come you were stuck under the rain? I asked. The look she had on her face made me rephrase the question. Sorry, I didn't mean to intrude. What I meant was that you seemed like you were unprepared to find your way home, if you know what I mean. Did I even know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I have some problems with my car actually. I came here to meet someone actually, but We kinda had an argument, so he left without me.
Her voice becoming quieter as she spoke. Oh, I replied, finding nothing else to say. The ride continued in an awkward silence. How old are you? I asked.
28.
I had pegged her for around 23 or so. You're in really good shape, I finally said.
Thank you.
She said, in a way that indicated she had heard it a lot. My resentment towards her just grew within me, and I became uninterested in further conversations.
Do you have kids?
She asked, trying to further the conversation. She didn't look comfortable with the question, and I also hesitated before answering. I had a daughter. She's dead, I said finally.
Oh, I am so sorry. I didn't realize that. What of your wife? She must be worried sick thinking about you.
My hands tightened on the steering wheel, and my shoulders tensed. Why won't she just shut up already? I said in my mind. Gone too, a few years before my daughter, I said out loud.
Oh.
Was her only reply before she lapsed into silence. At that, all attempts at a conversation ceased, and the ride continued in silence. By the time I got to her apartment, the rain had finally let up and had turned into a slight drizzle. Her house was big, beautiful, and artistically done. She definitely had money. She leaned over and kissed me on the cheek, smearing her sparkly lip gloss before saying,
Thank you very much. You're a lifesaver.
Before hurrying out of the car and towards her house to avoid the light drizzle. There was something about that lip gloss that was familiar. I've smelt it before. No, I've smelt it a lot. She waved from her doorstep, and I nodded before driving off. The memory of her waving and smiling replaying over and over. In my head, I saw that she had come out of my car empty-handed. She had forgotten her bag in my car in her hurry to get into her house. I parked the car and turned on the overhead lights, and I saw the bag on the floor of the passenger seat by a pool of water. I picked it up and placed it on the soaked seat. I know I shouldn't, but I couldn't resist. I had to. So I opened the bag and went through its little contents. A phone, a cute wallet that better suited a child, a little tissue pack, and lip gloss. Amy's lip gloss. I held the small plastic tube, memories of my daughter flashing through my mind. Since her mother started allowing her to use lip gloss, all she ever used was Amy's lip gloss. And God, was it hard to find. It wasn't a popular brand, so finding it was like finding Nemo. I would drive around from store to store, block to block looking for it. So instead of waiting for her supply to finish, I would buy as much as I could find at a single instance and keep them hidden until she ran out. I put everything back into her bag and did a U-turn back to her house. I parked outside her compound and walked to her front door. The rain had eased down enough to prevent me from getting soaked. She first of all parted the living room windows and took a peek outside before realizing that she couldn't see much from her position. She peeked again through the looking hole before opening the door. She's paranoid, I thought. The door swung open and she stood there wrapped in a lavender towel with a matching one wrapped around her hair. Before I even raised the hand that held her handbag, her eyes lit up and she exhaled.
Thank you so much. I was about to charge my phone and that's when I realized I must have left my purse in your car. But you really didn't have to. I thought you would bring it tomorrow, considering the time and all.
She said in a flurry. It's no problem. I had not really gone too far when I noticed it. I lied.
Well, thank you again. I owe you one.
She said, holding on to the door to prevent it from revealing too much of her house. Well, it's rather late. Good night, I said, starting to walk back to my car.
Good night. Take care.
She called after me. I started my engine and drove home. Despite her efforts, I still had a peek of her house. It was a mess. Clothes thrown everywhere, broken ceramics all over the floor, and the whole look of pain and sadness all over the place. Very interesting, I thought as I drove into my house. My empty, lonely house. What is the true nature of man? Is it good, or is it evil? For we try to be good, but are unable to. And we struggle to shun evil, but find ourselves doing the very thing we wanted to avoid.
Daddy! Look!
Trying and failing at a respectable pout, her mother had finally allowed her to start using makeup after months and months of pleading. I thought it was still too early. I mean, she was only 13, but she always had a way of convincing me and winning me over. Besides, lip gloss was the only thing we were allowing her to use. The lip gloss she used was a very light pink, sparkly and nearly transparent. She was only testing it out. The one she wanted was the pink one her best friend was using, Amy's lip gloss. It was seeing her friend wearing lip gloss that had made her plead so desperately, and that had made her mother give in. Later, we drove for nearly 8 miles. When she finally found it, she applied a bit on her lips before we even paid.
I love you, Daddy! I love you, Daddy! I love you, Daddy! I love you, Daddy!
She said over and over again from the passenger seat on the ride home. I woke up to the blaring sound of my alarm. 4:30 a.m., the LED screen indicated. Just 4 hours of sleep. I got up, stretched, brushed my teeth, and got dressed for jogging. Am I a bad person? I mean, I woke up 3 hours earlier than usual, just to come and watch someone else. It is not bad if it is done for the right reasons, right? The end justifies the means. And besides, what wouldn't we do for the ones we love? I waited a few houses before hers, wearing a face cap to hide my face. By 5:15 a.m., she burst out of her house wearing a black jogging bra, black jogging pants, a pair of black running shoes, and a silver headphones around her neck. I was right. She looked too in shape and too young for her age. There could only be 2 reasons: surgery or a disciplined exercise routine and a strict diet. As she took off jogging at a quick pace, I tried my best to follow her. Despite my resentment, she had pricked my interest for reasons I just don't want to share yet. But I had to make sure I was correct. Being wrong would be bad. Very bad. I really should work out more. I was wheezing all over the place, so I couldn't follow her for long. Although I knew that there were plenty of other ways to find out about someone. Thank God for the internet. I thought back to our conversations last night. She didn't give me her name, which is actually very weird. Someone helps you out at the dead of night, the least you can offer is your name. But then, don't offer personal information to strangers. You don't know who is out there, and the world is full of sick people. But still, I couldn't decide if it was because she was smart or because she was paranoid. Good thing I went through her bag, though, or things would have become a little bit difficult. In her bag, I found her wallet. It was a childish piece of leather, but her driver's license had been inside it, and I had seen her name. Jane Tanner. And what a lovely name it was. So I did what any interested individual would do. I Googled her. You would be surprised at how many Jane Tanners there are in the country. I hadn't realized it was such a common name. I had scrolled and scrolled for nearly 30 minutes before I had finally stumbled upon a Facebook profile with her picture on it. She was in a mint green blouse with more than 3 buttons undone. It was a portrait selfie, so I couldn't tell what she wore below the blouse. But still, the blouse told me one thing. She was aware about her body, and she liked the attention it got her. That is superficial. We are off to a pretty bad start, I thought. Facebook is a really good place to get to know about someone. They keep their picture of growing up there. They tag their close friends and family, put on their location with every post. Someone may not know you, but know everything about you, just from your profile. But I can't determine the kind of person she is just from social media. Most people are fake online. To really know the nature of a person, you have to observe their everyday life, right? I waited a few blocks from her house to note when she would be back from her jog. She came back sweaty and panting by 7 a.m. on the dot. Impressive. Almost 2 hours of jogging. Now I understand where your youthful look comes from. At the entrance of her compound, which was quite beautiful during the day, with its potted plants and reflective tiles, she looked around anxiously before slipping in. What is she so afraid of? I wondered. Only people with skeletons are this paranoid. I watched her every morning for the next 2 weeks just to be sure of her daily routine. She woke up every morning by 4:45 a.m. Weird. Did yoga till 5, then got dressed and went out jogging by 5:15 a.m. Just like clockwork. She got back by roughly 7 a.m., 5 minutes, give or take. I couldn't see what goes on in the house after her jog, but she was usually out by 8:30 a.m., ready for work. Her car had not been fixed yet, so she would just take an Uber to work, where she was a designer for a magazine company. She wouldn't be back until 6 p.m. when she was done from work. Once during the week, she had made a stop at a bar across town to see a man. They had ordered beer and she had spoken for most of the time, bursting into tears every now and then till he rubbed her shoulders and calmed her down. After they had argued for a while, hugged, and then gone home. She only did that once since I had been watching her, so I was sure that it wasn't routine. But what could make a seemingly perfect woman like herself burst into tears like that? On weekends, she stayed home all day, behind heavily draped windows and ordered takeout. I never once saw her go grocery shopping. It all seemed to me that you were trying to avoid being seen by as much people as possible. Pretty confident, classy girl like her never would want to stay hidden. They love being the center of attention. They love the crowd, and the crowd loves them. What were you hiding, Jane Turner? What evil could you have possibly committed that would make you shy away from the eye of the public so much? Whatever it is, I would do my best to find out, because honestly, what is the true nature of man? I waited across her house, dressed in black and hooded, waiting for when she would leave. She emerged in a white floral gown, cut short at the knee. Well, it was good to see that whatever it was she was scared of or running from wasn't getting in the way of her lifestyle and the way she took care of herself. She was radiating sheer beauty that morning. After she got into her Uber, I casually crossed the street and slipped into her compound and made for the door. Week 3 and still taking Ubers? The problem with her car must be really extensive. Her door was stylishly carved, and her doorknob had this look of French embroidery on it. I mean, what do I know about metalworks? She really is a classy lady. The thing about fancy doors is that their designs are very simple, and breaking in was very easy with an ordinary screwdriver. I just shimmied it around a little bit until I heard the latch click, before easing the door open with my foot and taking a peek before opening it fully. She had managed to clean up a little, but the house was still a mess. The last time I looked into her house, there had been broken ceramics and glassware on the carpeted floor. She had managed to sweep up most of it, but a few careless pieces could also be seen. There were dirty dishes in the sink, and a small cluster of flies paid homage to them, and the air was sour from full trash bags that had been kept below the kitchen sink. She didn't strike me as an untidy and dirty type, especially from the way she took care of her appearance. What is going on? What could possibly have driven you to this point? I made my way to her room, which was by far way neater than the living room and kitchen. Here the air smelled of flowers, fruits, and soap, the smell of an average woman's room. Here the floor was free from debris and even looked like it was vacuumed recently too. The plush rug was soft, and I almost felt like taking off my boots. Good to see her inner sanctum was sane. Her cosmetics that weren't on the living room floor were neatly arranged on her dresser, arraying at right angles to the mirror that looked like something you would find in the Victoria era. She used a wide variety of creams and lotions. There were those for her face, one for her nose only. There were cream for her hands, feet, torso, and other areas. And they all looked expensive. And on top of her mirror stood the Lipgloss. The small plastic pink bottle stood higher than the other items, almost regal in appearance. My mind raced and 1,001 different things flashed through my head, bringing tears to my eyes. I wiped them away with the back of my hand, and I decided I had done enough snooping around her room. I left her room and walked down the huge hallway, admiring the fancy decor and the placement of each item. Carefully placed, with much thought and intention, a stark contrast to her living room. I walked back the length of the house and saw her laptop. It was under a pile of clothes on the red couch in her living room. I brought it out and turned it on, then turned it off. Password protected. Smart or paranoid? You would be surprised by the number of people who don't password protect their devices, or log out for that matter. I carefully placed the laptop back where I had saw it and headed towards the door I felt was probably adjoined to the garage. Inside was dark as expected. I found a light switch, and a light soon flooded the garage. I froze in place when I saw it. Sitting in her garage, staring right at me, was her car, which was supposed to be with her mechanic, being fixed or something. Well, she never did say if it was being fixed, only that she had problems with it. I had only assumed that since she had some money, she would have had it fixed right away, or at least gotten a replacement. Why are you hiding the car here, Jane? What did you do with it? The car had a broken windshield, and the point of impact was clearly indicated with a splotch of dried blood at the area. The left headlight was missing an eye, and there was a splatter of dried blood around it. My vision blurred, and my chest burned as I bent down and began sucking in large volumes of air, like there wasn't enough in the world to go around. I finally found out what it was that was making her go crazy. This was the big little secret that made her check if she was being followed on the streets. The reason why a pretty lady like herself shunned the public eye. The reason she always looked out the window whenever there was a knock was because she was expecting to see the police. Jane was a hit-and-run driver. I was right to be suspicious, but still, I wasn't very sure yet. I couldn't conclude from only seeing a bloodied car. I needed more proof to know if Jane was a good or bad person. The fact that she hadn't cleaned up the car was proof that she felt guilty about what she had done and couldn't stand the sight of the vehicle. They say, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. What better way to know someone than by the company they keep? I would need to know more of Jane's friends before I decided. She at least deserved that. Suddenly sick of the whole place, I slipped out of her house and went back to my sad and very lonely home. I had a light dinner, showered, and went straight to bed. This story and all related media is copywritten by RDM Productions, Inc. For use, please contact RDMP Films, that's FILMS, @gmail.com. And I hope everybody checks out our website at afradioradio.com